Divorce men of Reddit, what moment with your future ex-wife made you think yup, I'm asking this girl for a divorce? I had a car accident, lost my job, was still depressed about family member passing away. My wife decides she really wants a gold watch that costs $999. I tell her I cannot afford to spend money on something like that in our current situation. She shuts herself in the bathroom to cry. That was the first time I did not react to that tactics. She comes out few hours later and asks me outright if I want a divorce, which was not even on my mind until that point. But that was the moment I knew. She called the police to say she suspected me of abusing our child. They arrested me, investigated, apologized and released me. One hell of a way to get attention. My crazy aunt living 2 states away decided we were abusing my grandma who she had not seen or talked to in months. So she called the police. They came and checked it out, apologized and asked if we wanted to press charges against my aunt. I will never know why my parents said number. I will never know why my parents said number. Attention is what the aunt wants. A legal battle would be long, painful, expensive and would mean you had be forced to see her regularly. At best it might result in a finance and community service for making a false report. Ignoring her means she stays out of your life, does not get the reward of being paid attention to, and gets a note in her record that she makes false reports. It is really the best route. Almost divorced male. When I found evidence of her having an affair on her phone and confronted her, so she assaulted me, and then called the cops. Then got a protective order on me. Got it extended with a hyperbolic and half-truth affidavit to include kicking me out of our home and taking my son away. I realized it somewhere between her mom calling the cops on me the next day for stealing everything in our home and being served the protection order. The cops felt so bad for me. I have had to talk to them 3 different times and all of them realize what a spin she is playing. Just waiting for my day in court. I did not know it at the time, but looking back, it was when our 2-year-old daughter died. Things changed at that moment. That was 5 years ago. We lumped along for a while pretending everything was okay and I actually believed everything was going to be okay. Earlier this year she told me out of the blue that she did not love me anymore. Had not for a long time. And she was leaving me. She left. Probably when she punched me in the face when I was asleep in bed. She had broken my nose about 2 months earlier when she was drunk and pissed off, and I had told her that the next time would be the last. I called the cops on her and she was arrested. Looked like some kind of wild banshee being hauled off into the night. It was a pretty easy decision to file for divorce at that point, since we had no children. Together 6 years, married 2. The minute Child Protective Services showed up at our door because she had a habit of leaving them unattended in public. Also the morning she woke up and looked at me and said, "I'm done. I do not want to be here anymore." What a mess. Leaving them unattended in public. What exactly does that mean? Like I can imagine that not requiring CPS. And being an exaggeration, I read stories where cops came because kid went to the park alone and BS like that, which used to be totally normal few years ago. She would be out in stores with the kids and just leaving the kids behind. It got to the point that she could not keep them by herself at all because this and other things were happening every time I went to work. When the sheriff showed up with an eviction notice, she had secretly been grabbing the house payment checks out of the mail before the mailman, withdrawing the money from the bank and buying Oxycontin. She always seemed so eager to get the mail. It did not click that she was also intercepting the late notices and eventually eviction notices. I knew she was struggling with a pill addiction, and I had been trying to help her overcome it, but the rabbit hole went so much deeper than I ever knew. For your information, she was not addicted when we married. She had an operation that did not go well, and they had to go back in a couple of times to correct issues. They prescribed her the pills for actual pain, but they just kept prescribing them, and I lost her. She died of an overdose 2 years after we divorced. She was upset because my mom had died 2 weeks earlier, and since then I had been spending a lot of time with my father. She started an argument, and when she got angry enough she threw her cell phone to my head Then she grabbed a knife and came at me. I wanted to run out of the house, but my daughter was upstairs. So instead I grabbed her wrists to restrain her. We struggled. I received a few cuts. She finally dropped the knife, took the house phone, and locked herself in the bathroom. The cops arrived shortly after. Since she was still in the bathroom, I talked to them first and gave them my version of the events. When they asked her, she told them I punched her in the face multiple times and tried to strangle her. She denied attacking me with a knife or even touching it until they pointed out I had cuts on my arms. Then she admitted, but said she was defending herself. She also said I broke her cell phone to prevent her from calling the police. It broke when it hit the floor after hitting my head. She had red marks on her wrists, but no other injuries. The cops believed her and arrested me, since my cuts were not deep, and they were so convinced I tried killing my wife. They did not take me to a hospital, just straight to the station, and then to a cell. The worst of it all was right before they handcuffed me and took me away. My daughter, who I found out had seen part of the events from the stairs, told the officers mommy cut daddy with the knife. One of the officers responded with daddy was angry and tried to hurt mommy. Mommy was just protecting herself. It has been almost 6 months and my daughter is still afraid of me. I get a text message telling me my grandma, who was my favorite relative throughout childhood, who I walked down the aisle when she got married, died. I said to my wife, my grandma just died. She said, can we go get ice cream? I repeated myself, I just found out my grandma died. She said, so does this mean we cannot get ice cream? That is when I knew I could not be married to her forever. We have 2 children. The final straw was when, after years of begging me to open our relationship, she told me it was unfair to not let her sleep around. I finally lamented and told her we could open it up and she could see other people if she wanted. She flew into a rage, told me she had been baiting me, not lying or manipulating, in her words, years worth of innocently baiting me, and that she could not believe the betrayal she felt when I told her I did not care if she slept with other people anymore. She then took the kids to her parents several states away, and I spent Christmas and New Year's alone. That is terrible and manipulative to such a ridiculous degree, and I have had ex-GFs react the same way when I lost someone close, just dismissing it. You are better off, my friend. When my best friend and roommate died, completely out of the blue, by a drunk driver hitting him on his bike, my ex told me she thought I was being selfish when I told her I needed a night with my friends after the wake. She was invited, but we had plans to go sleep it off at her place. I told my other friend this, but he said that he really needed me tonight. I'm not going to ignore that. So I told my ex that I needed to spend some time with my friends. I told her that she was welcome. She knew the guy and my friends, so it would not have been awkward. She said number 1 told her I do not think you understand. This is what I'm doing. I'm asking you what you want to do. Come hang out with us. And remember our friend. The place we were all hanging out at was my place. We could have just easily stayed there and slept in my bed. But number 1 even tried to compromise. Okay, let's spend an hour or 2 there, then go back to your place and wake up for the funeral. Nope. She replied that if I did not stay with her tonight, she would not even go to the funeral. I was not really in the emotional state to lose a best friend and a girlfriend, but I told her that I was staying with my friends. When I told her that I loved her as she was about to drive off, she said I do not care. I did end up staying with her that night. When she came storming into my house an hour later looking for the keys to her house, I followed her, trying to talk to her about it. I ended up helping her into her house. The next day, when I said that we needed to talk about the previous night, she played it off like she did not know what I was talking about. What a selfish bitch. When, with my 3 children 9, 7, 6 standing beside me, screamed about God knows what that time, told me to just go somewhere and die. Then to the kids, would not it be better done? Kids do not need that shit. 2 divorces here. First one, we married because she was pregnant with my daughter. I used to take the hitting and scratching she gave because I was a man and wanted to do the right thing for my daughter. Went into the army and got stationed in Korea. Found out she was cheating on me and got pregnant about 3 months into my year-long tour. Got home and ended up getting divorce and full custody of my daughter. Second marriage, me and her just between us got along great. But over time her and my daughter's relationship got worse and worse. I try not to blame her, she just was not ready to be a mom to someone else's child, even though it was hard to accept that. We tried counseling briefly, but she felt counseling is for crazy people, and she is not crazy. So me and my daughter left. I hoped she would change her mind and decide to work things out, but it did not happen. Have to do what's right for my daughter, even if it hurts. Edit 1. Thanks for the encouraging words, everyone. And thanks for the gold kind stranger it is, if my first one. I'm the child of a man who went into a second marriage with 3 kids. It turns out that second wife was not ready for kids from the start, but never said anything. He tried to make it work and worked his ass off to support 5 people. But in the end it was the stress of my sisters and I maturing enough to realize that we were not supposed to be her slaves and mental punching bags that caused her to leave. Going into a relationship with a parent is difficult and not for everyone, and I applaud those that can make it work. Unfortunately, the mindset is not there for a lot of people. Came home from deployment to Iraq. The house is a ducking disaster. She had left 7 dirty bottles under his crib. Some we are starting to mold. Car seat for the baby was installed incorrectly, even though I had put it in the right way before I left, and she had plenty of resources on base to help you with it. She lied to me and told me they could not figure it out. I had it installed in less than 10 minutes. And she got knocked up by some other soldier. I got a DNA test done after the child was born. My first day back to work I broke down in tears in front of the whole company because of the realization that my son could have died while I was on the other side of the planet and there was nothing I could do to help him. Buried to hell. But when I caught myself photographing street signs on my 25-minute journey home from work so that there would be a timestamp of the entire route to disprove constant accusations that I was cheating on her, I just left. Thanks for the comments. Guys, she was one of 2 insane girls I have been with, the rest were lovely people, but it just did not work for whatever reason. Jealousy girl had a ducked up childhood. Truly. Her father did time for bank robbery and had to leave the country in a hurry after killing someone in self-defense, she said. He had been locked up with a guy who was an enforcer in London. Someone who made the craze think twice before doing anything. So there was that. Imagine someone like that as a father-in-law. I met him overseas, and when I find myself having a smoke outside with a friend of his who had seriously contemplated and asked for permission to putting his wife and her lover in an industrial deep freeze and then dumping the bodies in the mountains, I knew I was way out of my depth in that little social circle. The other girl gave me a couple of days to consider whether I wanted a more open relationship like she used to have with her ex-husband. I did not want that. Monogamy suits me fine. Thanks. But I certainly did not want it when the other party would be furry and answer to the name of Duke or over as she was hoping I did agree to. I noped out of that little offer faster than a speed freak playing yakety sax. The rest, as I say, were lovely people, but the relationship was not all it could be for either party. She did not come home for 9 days. I changed the locks. She called when she could not get in and said she was staying at a guy's apartment the entire time. Her family nor I knew where she was. Filed for divorce the next day. When she left me in Louisiana to go to California to meet a man she found on the internet, he had to explain to a 12-year-old daughter that her mommy was not coming home. It was after the cops came to see me for me to file a missing persons report that I realized I did not have to take her back. Sure, the next 2 weeks sucked, but as days went by, I realized I could get rid of my biggest problem in life, and I lost 350 ugly pounds in the end.